Right, hi guys. So, haven't heard from me for quite a while. I do appreciate that. Just thought I'd give you a bit of an update on what the hell's going on with the car. As you can probably see in the background, the roof rack is on the top of the car, and you might be able to make out what the hell is actually on the roof rack. That is the seats from inside the car, and the front seats are on the boot. Basically, with the engine out, and that's on the stand in front of me right now. I've also taken the liberty of taking the interior out because I want to finish the inside floor that I never actually got round to last year. And while I've done that, I had this opportunity and thought, well, the garage isn't exactly weatherproof or very not damp. So I thought, where can I put the engine bits to keep them as dry and basically just nice and dry without the damp getting to them. So what I've done is I've used the fact the interior is stripped out, laid everything for the engine out across the floor with a bit of old show carpet on across everything, and I've left the seats out the car for now. And basically once the engine's done and the fuel tank's done, I can then put the whole lot back in the back end of the car, and then I can do the interior. Because I'm not gonna lie, at the moment the engine being done and potentially firing up is literally the motivation I'm looking for, because not being able to start a car and hear it run, you just kind of know that the car's not going anywhere for a long time. So yeah, it's kind of my motivation at the minute. I'm just going to show you the engine on a different shot, and just show you the progress I made with it. Right guys, so this is the engine block, as you can see. Now what I'm going to show you now is obviously the progress of the fact that we've got all 4 barrels in, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about why these engines can be a bit of a pig if you don't know what you're doing with them. So a conventional straight 4 engine like this is going to be a nice block with the cylinders literally cut out of it, and then when it wears out you just simply take it to a machine shop and they bore it out to the next CC up, so potentially you just sort of make the engine a bit more powerful in the process of giving it a rebuild. These engines, you have removable wet lines, which is this here, which as you can see are retained by bolts hold them in while the head's not on. And basically what you've got to do is, when you rebuild these engines, you've got to get these sitting exactly as they need to be, so that they're not too proud, but they're also not sitting below this block face, because otherwise what happens is you put the head back on with a new head gasket, and if the spacing of the proudness between that and that isn't right, you either end up with too much pressure going between the head and the block, and you could potentially crack the block lower down, which is what I've seen a post of the last couple of days, or it will sit too low and then you won't actually get a proper seal, and either you'll get water either leaking through from this side into the lower end of the engine, or you'll get basically just no compression because it won't be able to seal properly against the lines at the top end. I basically got three size seals, and funny enough the book says one set of colours and the colours you get are completely different. So what I've had to do is I've actually got two separate opinions here of how to do this particular task. These two here were set last night and basically the book suggests that you should have them between 0.04mm and 0.12mm proud of the face of the block. These two have been set so that a 0.10 feeler gauge with a straight edge metal ruler across the top, so a 0.110mm feeler gauge fits in there snug. So as far as I'm concerned, that should be within the right diameter, they're in the right boundaries. Now R basically means that used the red seal, and that one used the black and the white seal to make it what it is. As for these two here, this was following someone else's advice where someone who rebuilt one of these engines years ago said to me, don't bother checking it, just put all 3 together and compress them when you put the head back on. Now that was the original plan, hence why these two have been done like that. But since I've seen this post a friend of mine shared to me the other day, where the side of the block literally cracked open, which it was believed to be because there was too much proudness on it, it basically just stressed the metal. I'm choosing to take these two back out, undo the big ends, pull them out and do them properly with the right size seals, because as he said to me, I've put a hell of a lot of time, money and effort into the entire car, and do I want to mess it up now by trying to be clever and taking a shortcut? You bet I don't. So yeah, we're going to do that, and hopefully we're going to get it right. And when I've got these two out, I'm going to show you what the seals look like. And basically, as I said before, the seals both seal the liners to this side of the block, preventing the water that's going to circulate in here from ending up in the sump beneath, but they also space these properly, because if they're too low, you're not going to get a seal on there and it's not going to have a compression, and when the water goes in there, you're going to end up with it finding its way to the bottom. And if it's too high, then potentially the pressure alone on the post I saw had actually caused a lovely great big crack along here, presumably because the head bolts are here, and as it's basically pulled up, it's just taken this half with it and left this lot below. So yeah, I'm going to get these two out in a minute. Probably going to do it one at a time so that I can sort of control things and make sure I'm not getting any dirt in there, because it's surprisingly difficult not to get dirt inside an engine when it's open. There we go, it focuses now. So we're going to take one of these out at a time, and we're going to show you the seals, and then hopefully show you a good demonstration of how the hell to do this particular lovely pain of a task. Well, some people call it a pain. I sort of did the other day, because tappets are a bit of an art in the first place, but at least those you get sort of a second chance, if you like, to get them right. Whereas these, if you get these wrong, then it's a hell of a lot of work to put it right. Because obviously, once you've built this entire engine up, the only way you're changing anything that deep is taking the entire thing to pieces again. So hopefully I'm going to get this right. Let's see, shall we? Okay, so I'm just demonstrating to you, straight edge ruler across there, and that little, literally as you can see, along the edge of the block, that little hair size bit of light coming through is where you measure with the feeler gauge. Now, number 1 and 2 I did last night, and a 0.10mm feeler gauge is nice and tight in there, so as far as I'm concerned, I believe that is going to be just right. And then we have this one here, which has got all 3 seals wedged underneath it. As you can see, it's quite a substantial difference. So we're going to take those two far ones out one at a time. We're going to set them as good as I can, as I did with 1 and 2. Okay, so this is how it looks inside the block. That's with one liner out, like so. The liner is in my hand. And that bit of red you can see on that bit of white paper at the... There you go. Bit of red there, that's one of the seals. And basically you've got 3 bunched up together there, which is making up one hell of a spacer. So we're going to take all 3 off. We're going to see how it sits without any sitting at all. And depending on what we find, we'll then just try the seals until we get hopefully what we want. Right, so this is without any liner seals in at all. And in actual fact, as you can see, or might be able to, hopefully, there you go, this side of it is actually a very minuscule gap as well, and I can't get the camera to focus well enough to show you the other side, but there is a very, very fractional hair size get the other side as well. There you go, just about see it there. So basically I'm going to take that back out, try whichever liner seal I can get, because the 0.10 feeler gauge doesn't actually fit in the gap. So what I'm going to do is find whichever seal does make the 10mm feeler gauge fit, and hopefully it'll feel just like the other two. So let's go for it. Alright, so I've just put on the white seal, and as you can see, this thing is wafer thin. It's like pushing, like, I suppose, a bit of like grease-proof baking paper onto a bit of metal. It is so thin, and literally the way I'm doing it is you sort of, it's virtually almost what you just describe as a friction fit onto the liner. What I'm doing is literally using the tip of my finger, I'm just literally dabbing it down bit by bit, because otherwise I really can see myself tearing the life out of it, because it is so thin, it's unreal. So sort of tap it down as you go with your fingernail, until it's nice and all the way home, and then you can test fit it in the block and see what the hell happens. So yeah, it is very delicate work. Okay, so we've tried 2 different size seals. I've gone with the red one. It's I don't know if I can get the right angle on it again. Let's find out. But basically, the red seal provides that little gap, as you can see there, between the roof and the block, to be a nice fit for a 0.10mm fill gauge. So I'm going with that. Okay, so this is number 4. As you can see, that is absolutely dead flush with the top of the block. So again, we'll just find whichever seal gives us roughly what we want. Okay, so we just put this one back in, and we tried it I think initially with a black seal, and that was not enough of a gap. We've doubled it up with a black and a white seal put together, and now it's basically opened the gap up too much. So I'm going to take it back out. I'm going to find a red seal and see how we get on with that. Okay, well, I've wrapped the entire engine back up now. That's all I'm going to do this morning. So now it's 1 o'clock, so it's hardly this morning, it's now sort of midday I suppose. But yeah, we've got basically the bottom end is now done, apart from the thrust washers, and then making sure everything's re-torqued up. The camshaft was put in on the same day as the crankshaft, with the same bit of graphite and a bit of oil on it. Clean up all the cam followers and they can go back in, and then the bottom half wise just needs the oil pump fitting, and of course having a timing chain, tension, sprockets etc would probably be ideal, because otherwise nothing's going to work at all really, is it? So distributor, that's just a drop-in job once the drive gear is in. Drive gear I'll probably put it on the same time as the oil pump, because the drive gear itself sits down there, drives off of the camshaft and just basically obviously rotates. The oil pump is driven off the bottom of it, and then the distributor slots to the top of it. So I'll probably put that in at the same time as the oil pump, so that it just goes, so that the oil pump slots straight into it. The head is sitting in the back of my car because my mate very kindly got it skimmed for me at work, as I wanted to. I've actually used the head off of the donor 12, because after I stripped the head down that came off this engine, I just wasn't happy with so many elements of it when I took the valves out. I've tested the donor engine one, and the valves were leak free and all the rest of it, so I've just thought, okay, we'll just get it skimmed, leave it alone, just put it back on and it should be absolutely fine. So I've done all the relevant tests on it and everything's coming back okay. So I've had it skimmed, make sure it's perfectly flat, all that malarkey. So we'll get that head rebuilt up with the water pump on it. The water pump itself is sitting here, and basically I'll be stripping it back apart and cleaning it up nicely, so that obviously makes a nice fresh engine. I've got a new set of gaskets for the whole engine itself, so I'll replace all the water pump gaskets anyway. I've got a plate that's got the sensor for the coolant in it that's been put in with a proper adapter, so it will all look as good as it can do. Basically, that's the idea. I've got something pretty special in trick up my sleeve for how the engine's going to look. On that note, I've also got to get the rocker cover cleaned up and repainted. As far as the pulley that goes into the engine is concerned, I think that's the one that came off it. No, it's not. No, hello there. This is actually one that came off the 8S engine I showed you. And what I'm planning to do is, because the Renault 10 originally could be started by handle as well as the electric starter motor, and I think you can already guess where I'm going with this, I kept the starter dog, as they call it, that bolts into the end of the crankshaft here, that goes through the, obviously sits on the pulley that sits here. And what it will basically mean is, on a day where I'm feeling like I want to be a bit clever, I can put a handle in the back of a car and try and start it manually by handle. Call me a bit insane if you like, we all know I am bloody insane anyway, but I just think it's a little detail, it just makes the car feel a bit more like the car it's meant to be, if that makes sense. So whereas a 12 wouldn't have that on it, I want to put it on there just for the sheer uniqueness of, oh yeah, this car has actually got a starter dog like it would have had originally. I can't, here it is. That's a bonus, didn't realise I put it in there. There we go. And believe it or not, a jack handle that fits, I think it would be up to the Mark 1 generation Renault Clio's, Scenics, etc. I know they had the same, what's it called, what's it called, the screw jack, where you basically got a bolt for it, and it, scissor jack, that's the one. So it starts off flat, and then as you wind the bolt, it raises itself up. Now all those jacks, as far as I'm aware, they only go up to the Mark 1 facelift, like Scenics, Clios, etc. But basically the handle that you use to wind up that jack and also release the wheel bolts has that key on it. That is the key that actually would normally work on a jack. So it's a pretty cool bit of kit, and believe it or not, that actually means that the jack handle on one of those cars is actually what you use, I think, if I remember rightly anyway, to crank over one of the very old veteran Renaults, because it uses exactly the same key. So that'll be a really cool bit of thing to have on the car, if you ask me. So that's why I kept it, for that exact reason. So yeah, that's the progress today, and I'm really proud I've got this far, because doing these liners has been a real and utter headache in my mind, because you've never done something before, and knowing that the engine will come completely apart again if you get it wrong. I'm not gonna lie, I've been absolutely bricking this bit of the rebuild for weeks and weeks on end, and I've been putting it off weeks and weeks on end because of it. And yesterday I had one of them really rubbish days where just felt really rubbish, and I knew that being able to drive the car would sort me out. And I had a couple of friends that came over last night, and they said, right, we're going to help, we're going to stay with you for a couple of hours tonight, come on, let's get this thing done. And they came over, we bought some dominoes, and we got these two here set in as they're supposed to be. The funny part here is all three of them don't really know very much about engines. I'm the most knowledgeable person out of the four of us, but just having those three people around me last night to just sort of reassure me, and it sounds really daft, but that's just the way it goes. I really can't say thanks enough to them, because I guess yesterday morning at least, it felt like I'd actually quite lost my mojo a little bit, and then come over last night and give me a hand with this. Just goes to tell you that when you got true friends behind you, they know what makes you happy and what's going to really get you going again. And they did it last night. And honestly, thank you so much, guys, because honestly, I could not have done this all without you. You really brought me back up. I'm now this far into this build, and honestly, doing this same job this morning as I did last night with the three of you round me, I felt so much more confident this morning doing it. So thank you so much, guys. Love you all. So, right. Hope you all enjoy the video, and hopefully give you an update soon.